Humans had made first contact with peaceful aliens on this new planet. They farmed for food, but they had a problem. They needed to expand their farmland into the nearby forest because the current land was exhausted and they were going to starve. But they knew the forest was guarded by a powerful and terrifying beast. The human commander elected Elias to go into the forest and deal with, i.e., kill, the beast. There were real consequences. People would die if Elias did not succeed. The mission: Elias was a disaster mitigation specialist or a planetary security officer for the human contingent. His mission was to neutralize the threat preventing the aliens' survival. Failure meant watching an allied species die. Elias, armed and grim, entered the forest. He tried to track the beast, but it was clear that it did not come close to the forest edge that often. He was walking along when he heard a branch crack in front of him. He aimed his rifle, ready. A vast dark shadow coalesced into a massive beast. She was easily the size of a very large polar bear, perhaps even a bit larger, with a low-slung, powerful build that spoke of crushing strength and explosive speed. Her shoulders were immense, a mountain of muscle rippling under her pelt. Her fur was incredibly dense, short, and the color of midnight on a moonless night. A deep, almost metallic blue-black that seemed to absorb light. But it was the patterns that truly stood out. Along her flanks, across her powerful shoulders, down her forelegs, and outlining the powerful curve of her spine, burst vibrant, aggressive patterns. These were jagged, lightning-strike yellows or molten, almost glowing oranges. These weren't random spots. They precisely followed and emphasized every ripple and flex of her powerful musculature, making her look like a living, breathing anatomical chart of raw power. Every movement sent these brilliant patterns shifting and flowing. Her tail was thick and powerful, likely used for balance during high-speed chases, but also capable of delivering a punishing blow. Then there were the claws. Each paw was massive, ending in retractable claws that were thick, black, and sharply curved, easily the length of a human hand. When extended, they scraped against the ground, leaving gouges, or simply flexed menacingly in the air, hinting at their rending power. Her face, or what served as a face, had similar markings around her eyes or muzzle, drawing attention to her sensory organs, making her gaze seem even more piercing. Elias was captured by her eyes, which glowed with an internal predatory light, yellow like her fur patterns. They spoke of ageless wisdom and knowledge. When she finally made a sound, it was a chest rumbling, subsonic growl that vibrated through the ground, capable of rattling human bones. She executed her full intimidation display, vibrating the very air. The beast expected him to stumble back, to cry out, to show some sign of absolute, soul-deep terror. The beast expected him to run because the others run. But he did not run. He stood unafraid, relaxed his pose, and lowered his rifle slightly. It was still aimed at her but with less intention. And then he looked at her, really looked at her, and said one word: beautiful. The beast's multi-ton frame, designed for intimidation, froze. Her complex predatory programming, which should have been calculating the most effective method of pursuit or charge, simply stalled. The human was not acting according to any known threat response pattern. The beast hesitated. Her terrifying posture wavers slightly. Then she turned and disappeared into the forest as quickly as she had come. Elias paused for a moment and then he followed, tracking the pawprints through the forest until they ended at the bank of a small river. On the other side, the only tracks were from something much smaller and bipedal. It was as if the beast had just dissolved into the forest. The truth was much stranger. 10 minutes earlier, the beast had entered the water and then shrank and contorted until it became a beautiful alien woman. She was Vestra, protector of the forest. Normally, her shape-shifting powers were enough to scare off uninvited visitors, but not the human. She was confused. Why was the human not scared like the others? Worse, she could hear him following her, hunting her. No, not hunting, pursuing. She could sense that he was curious rather than hateful. She turned and the forest opened its arms and embraced her. As the day wore on, Elias decided to set up camp. He built a fire, making sure it was properly surrounded by rocks and a bare piece of earth so that it had no chance to spread. He made and ate some food. Then he relaxed with his back against a tree, brought out a simple wooden recorder he carried with him, and started to play. Vestra heard it. Was it a territorial call? No, it was too sad and haunting. She had to know more about this strange creature. She stepped out into the firelight. Elias stopped playing and said, "Hello. Lovely night, isn't it?" Vestra asked, "You are not afraid of the beast that lives here?" Elias replied, "Should I be? It's magnificent and beautiful, don't you think?" He wondered what this creature was. It didn't run. It didn't scream. It admired the thing designed to eat it. Vestra said, "You should be afraid." Elias asked, "Why? You're not afraid and you share the same space. So why should I be afraid?" Vestra explained, "I am the guardian of this forest. My life and the life of this forest are one. You cannot kill one without killing the other. That is why the beast does not attack me." Elias noted, "Ah, that would explain how you have the same beautiful eyes as the beast and similar yellow markings." She lowered her gaze, caught off guard by his casual compliment. Elias thought that he had offended her, coughed awkwardly, and changed the subject. Elias said, "It's so abundant and rich in life here. So different from the farmland outside." Vestra replied, "Because the farmers do not care for the land. They do not feed it. So the land gives and gives until it dies." Then Elias realized that turning the forest into farmland would only be a temporary solution. Once the last of the forest had been turned into farmland, starvation was inevitable. Killing the beast would not solve the problem. Elias said, "You're right. I was sent here to kill a problem, but the creature is just a symptom. The real problem is the dying ground outside. Clearing this forest would just be the last meal before the entire colony starves." Vestra told him, "They will not change. This is the way they have farmed for generations. Clear the forest, grow food until the land is dead, and then repeat." Elias said, "Then we must make them understand and change." "We?" Vestra asked. Elias replied, "I apologize. I presumed too much. Then I must make them understand and change. If only I could take the beast back to show them that she was only defending her territory. That would help my case." Vestra stiffened and looked aghast. "You would capture the beast?" Elias said, "No, no, no. I was hoping that it would join me willingly." Vestra thought about it for what seemed ages. Then she stood and said, "That can be arranged. Stay here." Then she looked back over her shoulder with playful glee and said, "Make no sudden moves, or she might eat you." She moved into the forest, changed into her beast form, and returned to the clearing. She poked her head and front paws in. That was all there was room for. Elias looked, just looked, and said, "You are even more beautiful in moonlight. And you definitely have Vestra's eyes." He offered her one of his nutrient bars. She chomped down and then winced. He chuckled. "Yeah, it's not five-star cooking, is it? But it is better than dying, allegedly." They settled in for the night. The next day, Elias stepped out from the forest with his rifle slung off his back. His commanding officer, Captain Sarah, a competent, pragmatic professional who was under immense pressure, casually looked up. "So, soldier, did you get me the beast's pelt?" Elias smiled. "Oh, I got more than that." And as if on cue, the beast stepped out into the open. The massive form of Vestra, the apex intimidator, moved and stood behind Elias. She moved with that breathtaking, silent grace, her polar bear-sized body seeming to float. The blue-black fur and the molten yellow-orange muscle patterns were intensely vivid under the two suns, making her look like a terrifying, biomechanical marvel. All hell broke loose. The alien farmers ran in all directions. Captain Sarah and two soldiers with him drew their weapons. "Stand aside, soldier," he shouted. Elias put up his hands in token surrender. "There is no need for alarm, sir. She is not aggressive. She was merely defending her territory." The beast sat on its back legs and then remained motionless. No one moved for what felt like an eternity. Then Captain Sarah broke the silence. "Okay, soldier, report, and it had better be a good one." Elias explained, "Sir, if we turn this last piece of forest into farmland, it will last 1 or 2 growing seasons and then it will be exhausted, and these people will be right back here, except they will have destroyed their only hope of survival. Their only hope is to make their farming more sustainable." Captain Sarah looked around the land. He was not a fool, but he was on a timetable. "That's all well and good, soldier. But we're on a 2-week clock before this alien chief starts losing citizens to malnutrition. Your solution is smart, but it's too slow. My priority is saving lives now, not setting up a green energy farm." Elias countered, "She's not protecting the forest from the farmers, Captain. She's protecting it for them. The minute we destroy that forest, they start starving again, permanently. The problem isn't the predator, it's the farming. And we can fix that. You see a beast to be destroyed. I see a predator whose existence proves the forest is rich and powerful. If you kill her and clear that forest, that land will die in 2 cycles, and you will have killed the only thing keeping the planet alive. The chief will starve anyway. Captain, you want a quick fix to impress the chief? You can hit that forest with a drone. You'll clear the land, but you will not solve the problem. You will only make an enemy of that." He gestured to Vestra. They turned back to the beast. Vestra didn't attack. Instead, she slowly extended one massive paw, revealing the black, hand-sized claws, and placed it gently on the ground of the dying, exhausted field. The act wasn't a threat to the people. It was a silent judgment on the land. Slowly, deliberately, she extended one massive, 4-toed paw. The powerful black claws retracted. She used the tip of the clawed digit to carefully scrape up a shallow scoop of the exhausted soil, the dry, depleted ground that the alien farmers relied on. A soft wind, a breeze that would normally carry pollen or scents, caught the soil. The material in her claw immediately began to crumble and blow away into the air, vanishing. The act of the wind, nature itself, rejecting the dead soil was the silent verdict on the farming methods. Vestra made no noise, but from the corner of her large, predator's eye, a single, massive tear began to fall. It traveled slowly down the black-blue fur of her snout, leaving a dark, glistening trail. Then another followed. Her heartbreak was not a surrender, but a display of mourning for the dying land she was sworn to protect. The tears started to splash on the dry ground. The tears confirmed to everyone that Vestra's defense of the forest was not rooted in simple territorial aggression or predatory hunger, but in grief and duty. She is crying for the dead soil. The chief of the farming aliens, who had come out to see what the commotion was all about, seeing the enormous, terrifying creature weep over their dead land, grasped the environmental message instantly. It was a primal, undeniable sign that their methods were destroying the planet. He said, "We have made an enemy of the land. No wonder it no longer feeds us." Captain Sarah, the pragmatic commander, saw the raw emotion and the compelling ecological truth. This was not a psychotic monster. This was a highly intelligent, emotional entity whose grief perfectly validated Elias's complex analysis. Sarah couldn't launch a drone strike against something that was crying over the environment. He slowly lowered his sidearm. His face was etched with sudden, complicated realization. He cleared his throat. "We still need to find some way of feeding these people now." Elias said she would permit the farmers to forage in her forest as long as they only took what they needed and did not cause any damage. That would buy us the necessary time to rebuild the soil. Sarah hesitated, then reached a decision. "All right, Elias. You get your timeline. The drone strike is cancelled. You have full access to our agricultural databases and bioengineers. Save this planet. And Elias." "Sir, that truly is a magnificent creature. But why do you keep calling it she?" He shrugged. "Isn't it obvious, sir?" Sarah shook his head. "Save the aliens and get us that treaty. Dismissed." "Yes, sir." A week later, Elias and Vestra, in her bipedal alien form, were watching a small group of aliens forage respectfully in the forest, talking animatedly. When their baskets were full, they waved and left. Elias stroked the flank of the beast. "Everything is perfect." Vestra shook her head. "Not yet. but it is getting there. Then they turned and walked through the forest and looked at which plants were the pioneers that would help replenish the soil. 6 months later, the farmers had developed more sustainable farming and the land was improving. There was even talk that if the land returned to its original strength in a year or two, they would have excess food to trade with other worlds. During those 6 months of ecological restoration, the bond between Vestra and Elias deepened through constant, close interaction. One day, Captain Sarah approached Elias. Elias saluted. Sarah said, "As you were, soldier. Well, you did it. You saved the people and got us the treaty. So, our work here is done. We're shipping out in 2 days." Elias had not contemplated that his time here was limited. "Shipping out, sir?" "That's right, everyone is leaving, except you." He handed him a data slate. "Effective immediately, you are to become Earth's official ambassador to these people. Stay here, Elias. Keep building." He stood there, stunned, then snapped to attention. "Yes, sir." Sarah saluted back. "Dismissed. Ambassador." Sarah turned and left. Vestra was watching the conversation from a distance. She asked, "What was that about?" Elias replied, "My unit is leaving." Vestra looked worried. "Are you leaving with them, Elias?" Elias smiled. "You don't get rid of me that easily. I have been made ambassador and I will be staying a very, very long time." Vestra now smiled. "And what will your first act as ambassador be?" He looked into her deep yellow eyes and pulled her closer. "I shall build a treehouse on the edge of the forest so I can enjoy the forest day and night." Vestra smiled. "That sounds perfect.